And welcome back to our next episode of the Million Dollar Coach podcast. Joined by the regular gang, Sam and Ash. How are you guys?
We're all here again. It's
Doing
so
great.
exciting. Good.
I almost believe you then, Ash. Almost. So we love these chats every week. And, full transparency, like the Million Dollar Coach program is something that, we've all been working through in various stages and ways. And I think that Ash and you, Sam, were some of the first that, went through it as almost like a beta test. And in anticipation of putting together, the podcast and, the seminar and all the good stuff we have with it.
Yeah.
So, and we talk a lot on the podcast about all the pillars and the mindset mandates and, the path and the things that you can achieve. But I thought what we talked today about is, it's a little bit of real talk and talk about what doesn't necessarily go to plan. So, for example, when we talk about, action not being taken, things not happening, feeling like you need to be better, you've got some limiting self-beliefs, all of this stuff overlaid versus, well, I've got the pathway, so I just followed it A, B, C, D, E, F, and away I went.
Right.
So today is, clearly for those who are watching or listening, this is going to be probably one of our most honest episodes. But I think we were on a call yesterday, and one of the comments, I think it was you made that, Sam, was about that no one in the space is talking about when things are hard and when things don't, go to plan. And everyone talks about, well, I did this and this was successful, and I did this and I was successful. And we know that that's probably horseshit, that not everybody hits a home run every single time they're at bat. But no one's talking about when they weren't as good as they wanted to be, or when they, fucked up.
When they whiff hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many swings did it take to get that ball, hit that pitch over the back fence? See, I'm getting better at the American references.
It's okay.
But yeah, so we thought, well, let's create, and we pride ourselves at FitFilliate and here at MDCP about being real and authentic and not, sugarcoating anything. So let's talk about it. Like, let's see where it takes us.
Ash, you want to open? Or you want me to open?
How much time do we have?
Right.
This is so raw and real for me right now. Like, I am in it. I feel like I have been for the last, where are we? Well, we're in June now, so I was going to say 6 months, but it's probably been closer to 8 or 9. You talk about things not going your way, or the way you think they're going to go. I thought I was going to buy an affiliate, and I didn't buy an affiliate. And I was like, okay, bigger things, different things, I get it. And then I just kept running into the wall on the left, and then in front, and then on the right, and then behind me. And I'm not even on the other side of it yet, but I know I've taken one big step, but I was trying to take these action steps in between that I thought were productive, and instead they were just busy distraction steps. And to be really authentic, let's be honest. My coach, Lisa's my coach, she could tell me all the things in the world that I was doing wrong or I shouldn't be doing, but like sometimes you got to do that shit the hard way, and you got to figure out that those aren't the steps.
Yeah.
And
it sucks.
The nature of coaching, all the way that we coach with affiliate too, is not necessarily to tell you what to do or not to do. It's to ask you, well, why are you doing that?
Yeah. But even if I did have somebody who went, that's not the answer, It
Mm.
doesn't mean I wouldn't have still chosen to try and run into that wall and see if it would
Well,
break down, right?
You
Like,
two,
Right.
you two both have kids. How many times have you told them not to do something and they're like, "Don't touch that, it's hot." Okay, bang.
Mm.
They're going to do it anyway. Like
Mhm.
you can't, you can't stop all the things. So,
Yeah.
agreed. You're still going to necessarily need to go through that process as well.
yeah.
Sam,
Well,
Yeah, go, Sam.
I mean, I get up here and so if I'm gonna try to like be as honest as I can from my position here, I get up here and I talk about all of these things. I say them as confidently as I can from the perspective of a person who has smashed his fucking skull against a wall. Like
Same here.
like there was the skull smashing that occurred in my day-to-day throws in the fucking trenches. I'm going to stop swearing as much as possible. In the trenches as a coach, 25 to 50 hours a week at an affiliate. And then there's the trying to ascend myself out of that, and what the hell does that even look like, and the face smashing that occurred there. And then there was the potential buying an affiliate and the face smashing that occurred there. And then there's the going off and trying to figure out, well, if I'm not going to do that, what am I doing? More face smashing. And now like having a plan and feeling like I've got a trajectory, but still face smashing because I'm running into the realization that like all of a sudden having a plan and realizing that like you think you know what you want to actually do doesn't negate the fact that you still need to do real basic stuff. And so when I stand here, because you just see the top half of my body, so I could be sitting. When I stand here and I'm like, do these things or don't do these things or be mindful of these things, like I'm trying to shortcut for other people a lot of the things that I know work and have worked. That's not to say that I've got it figured out. That's not to say that I'm good at it. That's not to say that I'm like I'm not we talk about like trying to avoid gurus here at MDCP and at FitFilliate. Like I'm not trying to be a guru. I am speaking from a position of this is what I'm doing right now. And I have some experience and some success with these things. And I know these things work. And every once in a while, the way I equate it is like when you read the level 1 manual for the first time, you read the level 1 manual and you're like, I get this. This makes sense. It's, an elegant solution, right? Both in simplicity and application. I know the things that I am learning and employing to be true in the same way, right? That doesn't mean I have 15 years experience. It doesn't mean that I have logged multiple thousands of hours like I have with coaching, but it doesn't remove from me the clarity of purpose that these things are important. They need to happen. So when I stand here and I'm like, please do these things, it's from a place of love and trying to save you time, effort, frustration that I experience. But please rest assured, I still experience frustration and I lose time and effort. I waste so much time like on things that I know are dumb and pointless.
And I think, some of the struggle with the position we're in can come from almost feeling to a degree hypocritical. It's like, oh, I'm talking about these things and how if we do these things, it'll make this path smoother, but shit, I'm not doing those things. And it's almost that we are coming at this then from a process of not to lecture others and not to tell others what to do, but it's almost like a reminder to self. So when, Sam, you're talking about having a direction and a thing now, but there are still things that stop you taking action.
Yes.
Like, and start spinning your wheels and getting lost in busy work.
Yeah.
And, you and Ash are kind of at different points in your journey, but even for you, Ash, is understanding that, taking action, but not being overwhelmed by all the actions. It's which action is going to move me from this place. And just because I have the playbook, it's a bit like we joke about the affiliate owner playbook. Everyone's got that playbook, but show of hands for how many affiliate owners have actually read it front to back and implemented it.
Right.
Probably teeny tiny, but everyone wanted the answers. So you've got the answers, but then what do you do with that?
And it's to go back to a phrase that we've used before, taskerbation. Like people, and I'm guilty of this, and this is so I speak from experience. People love to research systems and hacks and apps and, should I do GTD or should I do, whatever other, system or structure? And we lose so much time. I lose so much time trying to figure out the best framework through which to view a problem when I could just be solving the problem. Like literally any attempt to do the work would be more productive, even if it crashes and burns. But it doesn't stop me from wanting to be like, I can hack this. You know what I mean?
And the time you spent hacking it would probably use up all the time that you actually saved from said hack. But I remember, Sam, like when you started, down your path of your project, of your, building your own brand and product, and you were very much guilty of perfect being the enemy of progress. So it's like, well, I need to have all these frameworks and systems set up before I actually talk to my first even lead. Don't even have a client yet, but I've got everything built out, and I'm going to have and I remember numerous calls we had where we talked about that as like, but do you need all that before you have person A? I think you were going to do a full 12 week test of your program yourself. And we're like, maybe 4 weeks is good. Then you're still ahead of the curve by 4. Oh, okay. Yeah. It's having everything done, even though you don't have anyone to have it done for.
Yeah.
And understanding that those two activities can run concurrently, but not losing focus on and going all in on this one thing, which, we talk a lot about distractions. Yeah. Is it a problem or are you making it one? And what are you distracting yourself from thinking, doing, feeling, dealing with in that particular moment? You're like me, Sam. We like to geek out on technology and systems, and we can go down these rabbit holes, but it's like, oh, hang on a minute. What am I avoiding right now that this is making me feel good doing? Yeah. But what am I avoiding?
Yeah.
Ash, thoughts?
No, I don't have anything to add to that one. I would say I think the one thing I've done differently this time around is I knew a change needed to be made, and so I kind of took action on that. But right around that time, I kind of had encouragement of like, okay, so what's next? What's the next action? What's the next thing? And I at first was like looking at all the things and going, okay, this. And then I was like, wait, I need to deal with this, letting go of this one thing. I need to be present with all these feelings, because right now I'm grasping into these things and getting excited about them because it's taking me away from dealing with the fact that this is going to be really hard and I don't want to do this. And I'm afraid of letting this thing go.
Shiny object syndrome.
Yeah. So I will say it's the one thing I did notice about myself this time around, because, we say we're hitting our heads against walls and stuff, but the bottom line is we have to go through some of these things to be able to move forward. And it's just hopefully the next time around we've learned a little bit of something so that stuck phase where we're hitting our head isn't as long.
Yeah.
And we're asking ourselves better questions, or our coach is asking us questions that we're able to connect with sooner and make smart choices with. But it's life. We're always going to kind of have those things at some point. Otherwise we're not evolving.
I love that you mentioned so that the next time, we do this quicker or faster or whatever. One of the phrases that I keep logged into the back of my brain is every time I seriously mess something up, and it for sure happens once every 3 hours. What the phrase that I've heard is, I messed up and I experienced that loss or that flaw or whatever, that circumstance, because I needed that lesson. And my only way to screw that up is to ignore the lesson and repeat the mistake, right? But, and I've had some huge professional faux pas that, the only saving grace after everything was said and done is, okay, I needed that lesson, and it gets logged away in the back of the brain, and it changes how I do business, and, or, personal interactions, same thing. But it's there because we're never done, to your point. It's not like a situation that is like that or that is the same is never going to crop up again. Almost certainly it will, and so like, you're only at fault if you ignore what happened previously and you don't grow at all.
And I think what can happen is if you actually don't deal with it the first time, it keeps cropping up more frequently and more severely. And, talking about the analogy of hitting our heads, if you think about it in context of a toddler learning to walk, the first time they fall over, they're stunned. They face plant or their butt hits the ground when they're learning to walk, and they're like, what just happened? No, I was this way, now I'm this way. Next time that they fall, because they invariably will fall, they're a little more prepared for it. They're like, oh, this is okay. This is what happens. And as adults, we still fall over.
Yeah.
But it happens less and less, hopefully. If it's happening more and more, maybe you need to look at that. But if it should happen less and less, and we know how to deal with it each time, it's like, oh, I feel myself tripping. I can stop myself completely face planting and looking ridiculous in the middle of this busy street because I've learnt the lessons from before. It's like, oh, this is what happens. And how do I avoid myself falling?
Right.
So it is a lifelong learning process. It is, and just because we've outlined the tools, so with the MDCP program, which realised now I just said that means it's called program twice. But anywho, with the MDCP, the $1 Million Coach program, it's a toolkit, essentially.
Yeah.
It's not a pathway. It's not a checklist. It's a toolkit. And, as we talked about, I think last week, like, you can bang a nail into a fence using your hand, or you could go get a hammer. Or realize that, oh, it's actually not a nail, I need a screwdriver. You've got a toolkit of things that will give you a skill set to deal with situations and help you progress towards your goals. Yeah. But it's definitely not a checklist saying, if you do these things, you will earn 6 figures.
Yeah.
It's understanding that difference. It's not a template.
Yeah. Well, we don't get and again, we've said this before, but like, it's probably good to revisit it in this particular discussion. The MDCP, or the work that we do with clients, does not absolve anybody from actually taking action, and we're the first, not the first, but we are foremost examples of that. Like, everybody needs to take action, and it's not just once, it's continuously. Like, I've heard it said that the only way to lose in entrepreneurship is to quit, right? And what is implied there is that you are not going to succeed immediately, or even after many attempts. Like, success is a big scale. It's not a point you reach and then you don't have to do anything and there's just like fucking money rolling in. Like, it's like that meme of the iceberg where like it's like 6 inches above the water. It's this titanic thing below the surface. Like, there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen. And so much of this is about, to your point about learning lessons, it's about conditioning ourselves. Toddlers and children, they condition themselves to understand what they need to do. Like, I put my foot in this place or I will fall on my butt. And we do the same thing as adults. We just do it behaviorally or socially, or we do it intellectually. Maybe we do it financially or professionally. Like, we're learning these lessons, pressing boundaries and butting ourselves up against, things and getting a little bit burned, and hopefully like not like full blown, like 3rd degree, I need a graft burn, but like sometimes like you've got to, it's a messy process being a human. and it's supposed to be. So, I mean, if we don't accept that and like give ourselves a little bit of grace, this is so much harder. and I'm bad at that. And I say that as a person. Again, this is me being like, be better than me. Like, I'm bad at giving myself grace.
Well, I think we all are. And, you know, we feel, and this is where we can let our limiting self-beliefs take hold, or that imposter syndrome is like, I should be better than this. So by you guys, you know, being on this podcast, working on the project, it added a layer of pressure to you where you expected from yourself on some level that I should have my shit together, that I should be doing these steps. And if I'm not doing these steps, who am I to tell somebody about these steps? Even though academically I know the steps, I know the value of it, I know how it works. But if I'm not implementing it, who am I to stand up at the front of the room and tell somebody, do these steps? Ash is looking really uncomfortably guilty right now, but because she knows that's an exact line. And, you know, the purpose of today's podcast, and just to touch back on a point you made, Sam, about entrepreneurs and, you know, you only, you know, fail, I guess, if you quit, is Richard Branson. How many companies has he started and failed? But the only one we focus on is Virgin.
Right.
Like, you know, that's how, you know, amazing it is. I recently watched a documentary series before he went up in his little space thing. But, and how many businesses he'd actually started that you don't even know of. And he goes, well, that's failed and that's discard next thing. But they still keep forging on.
Pat Barber.
Yeah, like he started a million things.
Yeah.
He's like, no, that didn't work. I thought that'd work. Like, I think I followed every Instagram account he's ever created, but
right.
And then they just kind of all, no, that's not the vehicle. But you don't know what the vehicle is until you know, get in and test drive and see, oh, okay, yes, this fits me, this doesn't.
Well, and sometimes that vehicle isn't the right vehicle. Sometimes we get bored and distracted and we hop out of the vehicle, and it could be a perfectly fine vehicle, right?
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast recently. I think it was Layla Hormozi who was saying, at a certain point, entrepreneurs easily confuse, you know, things that are going wrong with the trials and tribulations of experiencing entrepreneurship and business. Like, and she equated it to like, if you didn't consult a fitness coach and you decided to put yourself on a diet and you're like, gosh darn it, I'm only losing 3 pounds a month or 4 pounds a month and nothing's going right. Whereas if you consulted with an expert, they'd be like, damn, you're losing 3 or 4 pounds a month. That's perfect. You're crushing it. You know, and like, it's what you're supposed to be going through. And like, sometimes, and like, you know, as we walk into these things and we learn, we get a little bit of perspective. Like, sometimes things are not the right thing. Sometimes you just haven't spent enough time doing something, and we get bored and we get distracted and, you know, all guilty of all things, you know, and we hop out of the car before like we've even gone out of idle, you know?
Yeah. And I think too, like, you know, both of you, similar part of your journey is you went down the process of trying to buy an affiliate. And that that was the foundation of our coaching relationship at the start. This is what I want to do. I'm 100% committed to this. This is what I want to do. You got in and took it for a little test drive and went, whoa, this is, I don't want a 40-seater bus to drive. I was just looking like for a Corvette, like a sports car. I just need something, you know, fast and sleek. This is not what I thought it was.
To be fair, in my particular case, it looked like a, how do I want to say this? It looked like a Corvette on the outside, but it was like a go-kart on the inside.
Mostly they are.
and that's the big ugly secret is that's most affiliates. And you know, and what I've come to learn since then is like, welcome to the party, bro.
And But I mean, if you hadn't have gone down the path of like doing all the process,
Yeah.
and then really, coming up with how it would look, you would still be sitting here now going, "Oh, I still wish I owned an affiliate. I've got to keep looking to try and buy one. I'll find the next
Yeah.
affiliate," because you didn't scratch that itch. You didn't get that out of the way and understand that this is not the right fit for me. My unique perspective, skills, and abilities are better used somewhere. I don't know where they are right now, but this is not the vehicle that's going to get me to, what makes me happy in life.
Right.
And it's okay to admit that.
It absolutely is. And I love that you use the phrase "scratch that itch." Like one of the things that, I keep hearing people describing, like when you talk to people who are in the last decade of their lives and they look back, they talk about the things that they didn't do that they wish they had. And so when I started looking down this role of, this window of owning an affiliate, and this doesn't have to be owning an affiliate. This could be, what about X? X could be, I want to learn Portuguese. It could be, I want to go salsa dancing and figure out how to do that. Like whatever it is for you. If you don't scratch that itch, you will always wonder what if. And going down that path for me, for my family, and going through that process helped me understand, not necessarily that it was a bad fit, but that particular car, that vehicle, to use your analogy, was not the right vehicle for me. Now, though, I know what a good vehicle looks like. And, or at least I have a better understanding of what a good vehicle looks like.
Glad you do.
Well,
I'm spinning in circles.
But I had to talk with my wife this morning about it. Like, hey, like what would happen if we ended up in a position where we were offered an affiliate? And like, do I feel confident saying as an objective statement that I understand what is required to run an affiliate? The answer is yes. That doesn't mean it's the right move for me, for my wife, for my kids, for us as a family. Like, it's a huge, massive undertaking, and it's not where I'm at right now. That's okay.
Yeah. And, you can experience the disappointment where it didn't come to fruition because you're like, oh, well, I really set my heart on that and, that didn't happen. But what next? Rather than living in that space of, well, FML, like nothing's going to go my way.
Right.
Like I need to, and being all, whatever about it.
Or even worse, never exploring it. And then just like you said, perpetually wondering and never letting go and always holding on to it.
Sitting on the fence, looking over the side going, those kids look like they're having so much fun driving around in that thing that looks like a Corvette, but it doesn't quite sound like it, but it looks like it. And that's where I want to be.
Yeah.
They make it look like it's so easy and so much fun.
Yeah.
So to circle back to the point I made earlier about, us and the role that we have here and standing up in front of a group and all, getting on this podcast and, postulating each week on all the theories and the pathway of becoming $1 million coach when, I'm not $1 million coach. Don't know about you guys unless you're holding back from me, but, we're not there yet. So how do we get past, or how do you deal with that feeling of, and it is a bit of imposter syndrome, but feeling that hypocritical is like, who am I to tell you what the steps are when I haven't ticked that box?
Huh.
Do you want to go first or do you want me to go?
They're both like,
Yeah, Ash is on.
Well, I kind of go back to, honestly, Christina, who's been on the podcast a few times, and her, and any coach really who, if you can't do a pull up, a muscle up, a squat snatch, you don't have the mobility, whatever the cases may be, that doesn't mean you can't learn the proper technique and the tools that get you there. And that doesn't mean you're not practicing those things, right? So I can still give you all the things and be able to see, oh, well, you're not quite holding your hollow position there. And that's where you're losing tension. So that's why you're failing at that point. I can give you those cues. Maybe I can't do it, but if I can teach, see, correct, and, because I've had the education and the awareness and I've witnessed it be done by others, you know, being able to coach it is very different than being able to do it. I know a lot of coaches who can not do certain things and they're phenomenal at coaching it. And reverse wise, I know coaches who can do certain things and they're horrible at coaching it.
Mhm.
So how do you, for you, Ash, is, that was a really nice, tidy explanation, but how do you then apply that to yourself when you know that stuff logically, like, well, I don't have to do it to be able to coach it, but then how do you apply that to yourself as in, I feel like a big skin bag of fraud standing up here telling you things when it comes to more behavioral stuff rather than, technical or instructional?
Well, I think that there's a few different routes you can go about that. I think the first immediate answer that comes to me, it goes back to last week's conversation we had that we all need coaches too. Right. And we need to, if we know the tools and the steps, we need to have awareness of them and make sure we're doing something to move us towards that goal, if that's our goal. Right. Like if I want to get a pull up and I can't get a pull up, but I can coach a shit out of a pull up, then I either am going to have a coach hold me accountable and work with me to get my pull up, or I'm going to say, okay, I know all the tools. I'm going to work on this 3 times a week until I get my pull up or whatever. So it's kind of the same process. Does that answer your question?
Almost, but I'll come back to you. Sam?
Well, so
we're getting
going back to this, like, how do I do this thing when I feel like X? Stop fucking feeling like that. Like and I know that's a cop out answer, and it feels like a cop out answer where it's like, how do you stop? You have to. You've got to wrap your fucking head around it because no one else can do that for you. We've got to get to a place. So here's a great example. When I first got sober, I had a family member who was walking me through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And for those of you who know anything about the 12 steps in AA, like the first step is about alcohol and the rest of them are about the baggage that you carry in and like why you drank. So it's this big, essentially cognitive behavioral therapy breakdown shit. And so like I'm going to meetings, I'm walking through the steps, I'm working through things, and the steps are numbered. You go in order. You really shouldn't skip things. And I get to a certain point and I get a guy at the meeting that I go to being like, can you help me? And I go to my sponsor and be like, I have not done the steps all the way. Like I'm only on like step 5. Like what, he's like, you've got enough experience to help this guy. I'm like, are you high? What are you talking about? He's like, you've got enough experience to help him along while you keep moving. Like, you've got to continue on your path. You don't get to stop. But does that mean that you can't talk about your experience, strength, and hope in this particular regard and share that with another person who is frankly reaching out and asking for help? The answer is no. And the only thing standing in my way of helping that person was my own self-created little box that I put myself in. And my sponsor can come to me and say, you can do this. The only way anything happens is if I choose to believe that other human being and shut off the little fucking tape that's playing in my head and do something. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And of course it's not going to be perfect. And of course it's going to be messy because we're human beings. And that's how this whole thing works. That's what we're supposed to be doing here. So I know for a fact that where I sit, I am not making $1 million. I'm making more than 0 though. And I can walk you through the steps that I have taken to get myself to this point. Now, that doesn't absolve me of the responsibility of continuing to walk down the path, do the things I need to do, have a mentor or a coach, kind of like a sponsor, who's going to help me walk through this process and sort my behavioral shit so that I can do the things I need to do. And that's separate from me going to the people who are coming up behind me, who are entrepreneurs, in this particular case, who are high-level coaches, who have lived the same experience that I have and have worked thousands of hours inside of affiliates and then can't afford to have, like, I got a guy, he's like, I can't have a fucking kid because my wife and I can't pay to do that. And so like, I got to stop coaching because like, I want to have children. What the fuck? Like, that makes me so sad and so angry. And the only thing that makes that a greater tragedy is if I can't unfuck my own shit enough to get out of my own way and help him. That's the only way I make this worse, is if I don't get out of my own way and help him. And so that's a roundabout way of saying, even if you mess up, even if you don't do it right, you still need to, you got to get over the fact that, like, yes, you are not perfect. So you, right?
Newsflash.
Like, yeah. Like, it doesn't matter. And the only one who can absolve you of the guilt that goes with that is yourself.
And I think that's a big thing, like, you know, stepping into the role of a coach, of coaches, which I did, is like, you know, I had to go through that same process, Sam, is that, well, if I don't do this because of where I believe my limitations are, then it's a disservice to them.
Yeah.
And I remember when I opened the affiliates, I remember going to some sort of seminar or someone saying once that, you know, if I'm the best coach and the best athlete in my affiliate, then I've got it ass about face, because, you know, if I only coach my athletes to be as good as I was in any given thing, then I'm doing them a great disservice. And the same is for my coaches. It's my role to provide a pathway for them to be better and be, you know, the best they can be. I should, in fact, be the worst coach in the gym because of, you know, the way that I have developed and allowed others to grow. Because if they stop where I'm at, then that's not amazing. And then stepping into a role of a coach with FitFilliate is, you know, there was a lot of work for me to get through to coach affiliate owners when I had a lot of perceived stories and limitations about, you know, my journey as an affiliate owner and my perception of what success was or wasn't.
Yeah.
And like, well, who am I to tell someone else what to do, which is the beauty of what we do here at FitFilliate. There ain't no telling somebody what to do. It doesn't matter what I did in my affiliate in my little corner of Australia. Your affiliate's very different. Your people are different. All your hopes and dreams are different. So what I did is irrelevant. Just because it worked or didn't work for me doesn't mean it's going to work or not work for you. Yeah. So it's learning to, again, have the power of a coach to say, to help you, you know, realize why you're hanging on to some things, why as humans we get attached to our trauma and we love to carry it around with us in, you know, sometimes matching luggage, sometimes it's just scattered everywhere for the world to see. But we, you know, to understand why we're attached to that, but how not to let that overlay everything that we do and therefore limit our future potential because of our past actions. Yeah. And, you know, that's a powerful step. And, you know, to come back to you, Ash, I've given you a little breather now, is because you've given
you didn't
me
have a choice. No one could shut me up.
Oh no, it was intentional. But, you know, you've given me the academic process of, you know, well, you know, if I can't do a muscle up, then, you know, if people see me working my muscle up, that's really good and that'll be really helpful. But how does this apply to you personally, Ash, sitting here in front of the screen? And so Sam's taken us through the process of how he has had to work on those things and be aware of those to move past it.
This isn't a podcast. This is a coaching call.
Oh no, coaching. It's a trip. Yeah, we do it in twos now. But you know, for you as a human being and as a coach, like, you're human. We don't expect you to be perfect. what do you think is important to you in helping you not get stuck in the, like you said, you're still working through a whole tsunami of stuff at the moment, and you're sort of, bobbing your head up above the waves at the moment and going, okay, having a look around, like, where am I getting my bearings? Like, what's going to help you, move forward through that, like knowing what you know, and not letting those feelings of I'm not doing the things overwhelm you?
Hmm. Um, I think it's also kind of knowing that I've been kind of what we said before in this. I've had these feelings before and been really unsure and scared and gotten through to the other side. So I know,
Mhm.
you know, um, but I don't know. Sam said something that kind of struck me, like you just have to get the fuck over it kind of thing. Um,
Mhm.
And it is one of those things. Oh, my friend Matt and I talk about this all the time. All the manifestation books in the world, right? It's like you just have to say it. You have to have the mantra, and then you have to see it, and then you have to feel it, and then you have to believe it. And it sounds like such horseshit. But at the same time, there is a little bit of truth to it. Because if you keep replaying the thoughts of, I'm stuck, I have no idea where I'm going in your head, then you're going to stay stuck and have no idea where you're going. So if you can get something in your mind to know that the other side, there is something greater and I'm open to it. And like those are the things that then you start to be able to receive and see those ideas of
Mm.
what is the next thing, whether it's I really want to be able to help this client, and if I can't do this for myself, I'm not going to be able to help them. And maybe that's the thing, it's going to be, I think, different for everybody,
Mm.
but it is a little bit of that, like, get the f over it, but it's going to look different for, I think, every individual.
Mm. And I
That-
think, an important step in that and you said it right at the start or alluded to it without putting it in exact words, but giving yourself the grace to feel the feelings,
oh
and
yeah.
that it's okay to feel overwhelmed, inadequate, like a fraud, all of those things, but not to then live in that space.
Mhm.
Right.
Because when we take our little trauma bags and we move into that space, then there is no way we're taking any actions. We're just sitting there and validating these perceptions we have of ourselves and our worth and our lack of worth. And that's why nothing good ever happens. And when things don't pan out, well, see, I told you, it's because I'm XYZ sort of person, rather than moving out of that space, doing that uncomfortable work to move forward through that.
Right.
Well, I love, Ash, what you said, where it's like, I can have the mantras and the manifestations and the visualizations and the slogans on the wall and the whole, and it feels like bullshit. It doesn't matter if it feels like bullshit, because if you've got nothing else, maybe bullshit is what you got. And like, try the bullshit. Like, because trying the bullshit really is doing something.
Yes.
You know? And like, it might not be the thing that is taking you to that next step, but if you come way, way down to it, visualizing is the first step to that next step. And then, manifesting, that's the next step. And, talking yourself through it and creating a mantra, that's the next step. You're stepwising yourself. You're taking a step that's 12 inches tall and you're bringing it down to a 1/4 inch, right? And all of those things are valid and valuable as long as they don't become a distraction, right? Like, it's all to a purpose. And there's an infinite number of steps that can exist in there between, that first 1/4 inch and that first 12-inch step. But going back to like taskerbation and things like that, like, they're all supposed to be tools to help you do a thing, not things to do in it of themselves.
Or reasons to do nothing.
Right.
Except I'm just sitting and thinking about my manifestations right now, and not do anything else. You actually have to do one of the sayings that I always heard my grandparents say and my mother say when I was a kid is you can wish in one hand and spit in the other, and which one's going to get full first?
Yeah.
And you're
Oh.
like, yeah.
Yeah, we have an
It's
American version of that is way more explicit.
yeah, Ash is like,
I don't know that one.
You can wish in one hand and shit in another and see which one fills up first.
Oh, I've never
So-
heard that.
we
Okay.
have a little bit of decorum over here. I was just going to say,
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, 'cause there's no decorum over here.
it's and it's something that's always, stuck with me is like you need to do
Yeah.
the action. You need to do the thing. Like I can wish for it, but unless I actually do something about it, then sure as shit, it's not happening.
And I want to highlight the fact that I have described, this situation of it doesn't matter, you need to do it, blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
That is not in any way to sideline or disregard the fact that it could be absolutely terrifying.
Mm.
That is a real thing. And I
Yeah.
want to acknowledge that. I want to say that out loud as a person who experiences it. Literally every time I experience substantive growth of any kind, it is terrifying.
Mm.
The only thing that gives me any confidence whatsoever is that I've done that enough times now to know that that is exactly what I need to do.
There's
And
benefit.
that, yeah, like I'll probably live. It will be terrifying, and I will want to shrink into a human being this tall and hide under the covers and in the dark with my Netflix. But like, I know that if I can walk through that terror, fear, whatever, there is a boon. There is a gift on the other side.
Mm.
And what I know now is that, and this is the frustrating part of this, is I've done this enough times to know that the gift is always there, and so is the terror.
Mm.
It's always going to be there, because if it wasn't, like, there's a light in the dark, there's a valley and a mountain. Like, I don't get the gift if I don't walk through the fire. I'm always going to have to walk through the fire.
And it's the other flip side of that as well is acknowledging that within ourselves, but also the other thing that can be incredibly scary is being vulnerable enough to admit I don't have my shit together. I don't feel good enough. I don't feel, and admitting that out loud to another human.
100% right
Ash-
here. All of those things. Don't feel good enough. Don't feel like I have my shit together. That's been, which is why we did this podcast today. It's about like, but I've still, I'm leaving my affiliate, and the amount of people who have come up to me and told me about how much my coaching has changed their lives, and not just in the gym, but like, okay, so I'm doing something right? Like I am making a difference. And that's kind of you talk about the hopes and the bullshit you got to feed yourself. Well, that's not bullshit. And people have given me life examples, and it's like, okay, that's what I'm going to keep here to help me get through this dark and scary time going forward.
And you also need to keep it here as well, where you can go.
Yeah.
If we look at, as humans, we like evidence. We like to make evidence-based decisions, and we like to have, so we can either have actual evidence or we can make shit up as evidence. And when we get stuck in those behaviors and patterns, that's us making stuff up, because that narrative suits the belief system that we have about ourselves.
Right.
Or we could switch to actual, I'm going to use the word scientific. Please don't comment and say that it's not scientific. Like hard data of what somebody has given to me and said, this is how you have impacted my life, then that is hard data. I didn't make it up. I didn't pay them to say it. This is what they have genuinely said.
Mm-hmm.
To hang on to that rather than these bullshit scenarios I keep running through that fulfill the belief system I have. There's I'm a bag of stones kind of deal. We need to look at it logically as well as emotionally, because sometimes our emotional brain will lie to us. We lie to ourselves all the time.
Well, even if it's not scientific, it's certainly objective. And if the itty bitty shitty committee of one that's occupying the square footage of real estate inside of my skull is spewing negative shit constantly, then having something like that where someone comes out and they say, you changed my life, this, I'm going to miss you, and I had experiences like that when I left my first affiliate. I still have it on my keychain, a woman who used to bring her kid in for the kids class, and every single time she did it, I would kind of nudge her in the direction of, coming into class. And it took her like a year, but she did it and it changed her life. And like, that's something objective. I didn't create that. That doesn't mean those things are easy to accept, right? Because if that itty bitty shitty committee of one is speaking really loudly, that can be really hard to, that tape can be hard to ignore, and it can be hard to listen to that positive external statement, but typically, I'm going to say a big general statement here. People don't usually go out of their way to tell other people how awesome they are. Like, which is kind of unfortunate, but especially if you're a coach, if someone comes to you and like one of your members, one of your clients, and they say, hey, I really appreciate XYZ. You do this and it's awesome. You helped me with Y. Like, you changed this about me and my life is better. Shut up, smile, say thank you, and take the compliment, and just and try to hold on to that. And
think about it.
Yeah. Like maybe not even think about it. Just like
store it.
Like they gave you like a little warm bubble of light, and like you can destroy it, or you could just like sit in that little warm bubble for a little bit. And like, if you do that enough times, it gets easier to believe.
Yep. One of the tools someone told me once is like, every time someone sends you a text or, write something, whatever that's positive about you, screenshot it. And I would keep it in an album on my phone. And it became my practice that when I felt like a dog's breakfast, and that like, I may have had a bad interaction with a member and someone had, told me how awful of a human being I was, and I was shitty and I was this, that, and the other, I would then give myself 5 or 10 minutes to stew on that and cry on it, straight after that 10 minutes. And believe me, I had to set a timer to know, like, this is your poor me time, 10 minutes, timer's up. I would go to that album on my phone and read those things. And it was a very powerful shift. As like, oh, that's why I do it. That's why I fight so hard. That's why I do the things I do. So again, it was taking an action that stopped me sitting in the space, because I did used to sit in that space for a week. And then one day I realized, well, shit, while I'm sitting in my space worrying about all those things Sam said about me, nothing else has been done this week. Like, nothing has happened. So I need to condense this to 10 minutes to cry, kick, scream, poor me, I'm a horrible person, my life sucks, to then go, now I need to take an action to move me out of that space. And that taking that action was a powerful switch. And by having that as on my phone, like just real quick to scroll it, like I could read those things. I could memorize them off the top of my head. I've had to read them so many times, but it was there. But I still had to default to doing an action of a physical trigger of reading rather than just remembering that stuff. Because in that moment where I was all poor me, then you're right, Sam, made it nearly impossible to do. So, through each of our stories today, one of the key things is take some action. It will move you past those fears. And we say it often in FitFilliate, move faster than fear. Because while you're doing the thing, you don't have time to be scared. It's when you're sitting contemplating your navel that that itty bitty shitty committee that's going to be the hashtag on this podcast for sure. That's when they have time to sit down and grab a coffee and let's chat, let's have a meeting. Like, here's all the things that you've done poorly in your whole life versus I'm too busy doing things to think about what you've got to say.
Hmm.
And understanding for the coaches out there, you know, we all feel it. It doesn't matter if you look at us on the grams and go, wow, that Sam guy, he's amazing. He's got his
Said
shit
nobody
together. Look,
ever.
he's got an amazing green screen. He's got cool headphones. He's got it. He's got everything going on. We don't. And that's okay because we own it and we're still continually working on it. You don't have to be a perfect coach to change lives and to earn an income.
Yeah.
You can just start taking steps. You don't have to live by anyone else's agenda. You can grab what you want by the horns and run with it, but you need to take the action.
Yeah.
And you need to get a coach for yourself, which is the other thing that we keep bringing up.
Yeah.
Because you need that external, you know, you two have both talked about having an external coach, which I'm privileged to sit in that seat for you both, but it's, you know, having that external, and I have a coach who sits there and goes, yeah, but why are you telling yourself that bullshit? Like, what does it mean? Like, why are you doing that thing? Like, why is that important to you? And really making you think hard on those things makes a ginormous difference to you being able to use the skills and the lessons that you have to help other people move forward.
Yeah.
Which is why we're in this game.
Yeah.
All right, kids. Great chat. Got an appearance from the cat at the end. Normally it's just the tail walking across.
Who's the bad guy in Inspector Gadget? Because that's what I picture when he's got the cat.
Dr. Claw.
Dr. Claw.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord, Inspector Gadget. All right, guys. Well, thank you for your honesty and being open and you know, embracing this little process today. I know it's not easy or comfortable, but that's why we're here and, you know, to walk the walk that we're all continuing to do and to be the best we can be despite the stories we tell ourselves.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll see you on the next one, legends.